Marcus Thompson, a respected black CEO, becomes the target of Zenith Airlines' systemic racism and corruption when they falsely accuse him of unauthorized system access to silence his efforts in exposing their discriminatory practices. Determined to fight back, Marcus uncovers a web of institutional bias aimed at suppressing whistleblowers. As he faces unjust charges and public humiliation, his battle against Zenith ignites widespread outrage, highlighting deep-seated racial injustices within powerful corporations and fueling intense controversy. What if a routine business trip became the catalyst for uncovering a web of deceit that stretched far beyond a single flight? Imagine boarding a plane, with no reason to expect trouble, only to find yourself thrust into a battle against a powerful corporation determined to silence you. This isn't just a story about one man's fight for justice. It's a tale of resilience, uncovering hidden truths, and standing up against systemic corruption. Stay tuned, because what happens next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about corporate accountability. Before we dive in, let us know in the comments where you're watching from today, and if this story resonates with you, hit that subscribe button for more gripping narratives. It was an unremarkable Tuesday morning when Marcus Thompson, the CEO of Thompson Enterprises, arrived at the bustling downtown cafe in Chicago. At 42, Marcus was a paragon of success, his name synonymous with innovation in the tech industry, his company a beacon of excellence. Yet, despite his wealth and power, Marcus led a remarkably humble life. Clad in a simple, well-fitted sweater and jeans, he preferred the understated over the ostentatious, blending seamlessly into the diverse crowd that frequented the cafe. Marcus was a man of paradoxes. His office, a sleek skyscraper with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, was a testament to modern design and corporate ambition. Yet, his personal life was rooted in simplicity. He drove an unmarked sedan, dined at local eateries, and spent his evenings volunteering at community centers. His employees admired him, not just for his business acumen, but for his genuine concern for their well-being and his unwavering commitment to social causes. As Marcus entered the cafe, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods enveloped him. The place was a favorite among the locals, known for its warm ambiance and friendly staff. Today, it was slightly busier than usual, a mix of regulars and new faces filling the tables. He made his way to his usual corner, a cozy spot by the window where he could observe the street while enjoying his morning latte. Settling into his seat, Marcus pulled out his laptop, ready to tackle the day's agenda. Despite his high-powered position, he cherished these moments of normalcy, sipping coffee, engaging in casual conversations, and soaking in the community spirit. It was a stark contrast to the high-stress environment of board meetings and investor calls, offering him a much-needed respite. As he typed away, his attention was drawn to a conversation happening at the next table. A group of young professionals were animatedly discussing the latest tech trends, their voices blending with the cafe's background chatter. Among them was a woman in her early 30s, her demeanor confident yet approachable. She noticed Marcus and offered a friendly smile, which he returned with a nod before refocusing on his work. The cafe's door swung open, and a gust of chilly autumn air swept in, bringing with it a sense of anticipation. A man in his late 40s, dressed in a sharp suit and carrying a briefcase, entered and scanned the room. His eyes settled on Marcus, but instead of approaching, he opted for a seat at the bar, ordering a coffee before pulling out his phone to catch up on emails. Marcus couldn't help but notice the man's intense focus, the way his jaw tightened as he navigated through his messages. The social climate outside the cafe was a tapestry of progress and persistent challenges. Chicago, like many major cities, was a melting pot of cultures, ideas, and ambitions. Yet, beneath the surface, systemic issues of inequality and prejudice simmered, occasionally erupting into public discourse and unrest. Marcus was no stranger to these tensions. As a black CEO in a predominantly white industry, he had navigated his share of biases and obstacles, both overt and subtle. But his approach had always been one of quiet strength and strategic resilience, believing in change through example and advocacy rather than confrontation. Today, however, there was an undercurrent of unease that Marcus couldn't quite place. It wasn't something he could attribute to the weather or the usual morning rush. It felt like the calm before a storm, a prelude to something significant brewing beneath the surface. His thoughts were interrupted by the soft chime of his phone, a text from his assistant, Jenna. Meeting rescheduled to 11 a.m. urgent client request. Marcus glanced at the time. He still had an hour before his appointment. He decided to take a break, closing his laptop and savoring the last sips of his latte. As he stood to leave, the woman from the other table approached him. "Mr. Thompson?" she asked, her tone polite yet inquisitive. Marcus offered a warm smile. "Yes, that's me. How can I help you?" "I'm Dr. Angela Brooks," she introduced herself, extending a hand. "We met briefly at the community center last month during the tech workshop. I wanted to discuss a potential collaboration." Marcus remembered her clearly. Dr. Brooks was a respected figure in the community, known for her work in bridging the gap between technology and social justice. Her initiatives aimed at empowering underrepresented groups in the tech sector had garnered both admiration and attention. "Of course, Dr. Brooks, please, have a seat." Marcus gestured to an empty chair. "I'd love to hear more about your ideas." As they sat, the conversation flowed effortlessly. Dr. Brooks outlined a project aimed at providing mentorship and resources to young Black entrepreneurs, fostering innovation and inclusivity within the tech industry. Marcus listened intently, impressed by her passion and the potential impact of the initiative. "This aligns perfectly with our company's values," Marcus remarked. "We're always looking for ways to give back and support meaningful causes. Let's set up a meeting with our team to discuss how we can collaborate." Dr. Brooks's face lit up with gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I truly believe this partnership could make a significant difference." Their discussion was interrupted by the arrival of their orders: coffee for Dr. Brooks and a light breakfast sandwich for Marcus. As they sipped their drinks, the atmosphere in the cafe seemed to shift, the earlier sense of unease now replaced by a sense of purpose and potential. Marcus left the cafe with a renewed sense of determination. The collaboration with Dr. Brooks could be the catalyst for positive change he had been striving for, both within his company and the broader community. Little did he know, this very partnership would soon thrust him into the heart of a conflict that would challenge his principles and test his resolve in ways he had never anticipated. As he walked down the bustling streets of Chicago, the city felt alive with possibilities. Yet, the shadows of systemic challenges loomed large, reminding him that progress was often met with resistance. Marcus's path was clear. He was committed to using his influence and resources to drive meaningful change. But in a world where power dynamics were constantly shifting, even the most well-intentioned efforts could become entangled in unforeseen conflicts. His phone buzzed again, pulling him back to reality. A notification from his calendar reminded him of the meeting with his team at 11 a.m. Marcus quickened his pace, eager to get back to the strategic discussions that awaited him. The day was just beginning, and already, the seeds of a much larger battle were being sown. As he entered the sleek, modern offices of Thompson Enterprises, the familiar hum of productivity greeted him. His team was gathered in the conference room, papers and laptops spread out in preparation for the meeting. Marcus took a seat at the head of the table, the center of authority, yet remaining approachable and grounded. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady and confident. "I have an exciting opportunity to discuss today. Dr. Brooks has proposed a collaboration that could significantly impact our community outreach initiatives. Let's hear more about her vision." As the meeting progressed, ideas flowed, and enthusiasm filled the room. Marcus felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that his leadership was steering his company towards not just financial success, but also social responsibility. Yet, amidst the optimism, a lingering question tugged at the back of his mind. What obstacles lay ahead in turning these ideals into reality? Unbeknownst to Marcus, a few blocks away, the man in the sharp suit at the cafe's bar was monitoring his movements. His name was Ethan Carter, a high-ranking executive at Zenith Airlines, one of Thompson Enterprises' major partners. Ethan had been observing Marcus for weeks, intrigued by his philanthropic endeavors and his influence within the tech industry. But today, his interest had a different motive: a corporate strategy that Zenith was developing, which they believed Marcus could inadvertently disrupt. As Marcus settled into his role as both a leader and a community advocate, the stage was being set for a confrontation that would test not only his business acumen, but also his commitment to justice and equality. The systemic challenges hinted at in the bustling streets of Chicago were about to intersect with his personal journey, leading him down a path fraught with unexpected twists and moral dilemmas. Marcus's story was just beginning, but already the threads of power, prejudice, and perseverance were weaving a complex tapestry that promised to engage and inspire. As he looked around the conference room, surrounded by his dedicated team, Marcus felt a surge of determination. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to face it, head-on, armed with humility, strength, and an unwavering belief in the power of truth. Before we continue, share your thoughts below and subscribe to stay updated on Marcus's journey as he navigates the complexities of fighting back against a giant corporation. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. As Marcus concluded the meeting with his team, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The collaboration with Dr. Brooks promised not only to enhance Thompson Enterprises' community outreach, but also to create a lasting impact on the tech industry's landscape. Energized by the potential of this partnership, Marcus decided to take a short walk to clear his mind before diving back into his projects. The streets of Chicago were alive with the usual midday hustle. Street vendors called out to passers-by. The hum of traffic blended with snippets of conversation, and the vibrant murals adorning building walls added a splash of color to the urban environment. Marcus appreciated these moments of tranquility amidst the city's relentless pace. As he approached a local bookstore, a quaint, independent shop known for its curated selection of literature and frequent author events, Marcus felt a sudden urge to browse. It was a small indulgence he rarely allowed himself, but today felt different. Perhaps it was the satisfaction of productive mornings or the anticipation of the day's potential. But he decided to step inside. The bookstore's interior was cozy, with wooden shelves lining the walls and soft jazz music playing in the background. Marcus wandered through the aisles, his fingers lightly grazing the spines of books that ranged from classic literature to contemporary essays on social justice. He found himself in the community section, where books on activism, empowerment, and systemic change were prominently displayed. As he reached for a copy of Invisible Chains, The Hidden Struggles of the Modern Workforce, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Excuse me, sir, can I help you find something?" Marcus turned to see a young woman behind the counter, her expression friendly but professional. She wore a name tag that read, Linda, and her curly hair was neatly tied back. Her demeanor was welcoming, a stark contrast to the more formal interactions Marcus often experienced in corporate settings. "I'm just browsing, thank you," Marcus replied with a warm smile. "But if I have any questions, I'll be sure to ask." Linda nodded, her smile genuine. "Absolutely, let me know if you need any recommendations." Marcus continued his exploration, selecting a few titles that piqued his interest. As he approached the checkout counter to purchase a book on leadership and diversity, he noticed Linda watching him with a curious gaze. There was no hint of judgment, just a friendly observation. He placed his selections on the counter and began to reach for his wallet. As he did, the door to the bookstore swung open, allowing a gust of cold air and the arrival of another customer. A middle-aged man in a business suit entered, his demeanor brisk and purposeful. He glanced around the store before heading directly to the checkout counter where Linda was stationed. "Good afternoon," the man greeted, his tone clipped. "I'd like to purchase these," he said, placing a stack of expensive, hardcover business books on the counter. Linda began scanning the items, her fingers moving deftly over the barcode. As she processed the transaction, the man's eyes briefly met Marcus's. There was a flicker of recognition, but it quickly vanished as he turned his attention back to the purchase. "Thank you," he said curtly, taking his bag and exiting the store without another word. Marcus watched him go, curiosity piqued by the man's abruptness. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about the interaction. Just as he was about to leave, Linda approached him with a friendly gesture. "Here you go, sir," she said, returning his books and offering a bag. "Your total is $47.50. Marcus handed her his credit card, noticing her polite efficiency. "Thank you, Linda. Have a great day." "You're welcome, Mr. Thompson," she replied, flashing him another warm smile. "Enjoy your reading." As he left the bookstore, the chill of the afternoon air settled in, prompting him to pull his coat tighter around him. The encounter had been pleasant, yet the man's terse behavior lingered in his mind. Marcus dismissed it as a brief moment of irritation, a common occurrence in any bustling city. However, the day was far from over, and the subtle undercurrents of tension were about to surface in ways Marcus could never have anticipated. Later that afternoon, Marcus attended a scheduled video conference with Zenith Airlines, one of Thompson Enterprises' key partners. The meeting was intended to discuss a potential expansion of their collaborative efforts, focusing on integrating advanced technologies to improve customer experience and operational efficiency. Marcus valued these partnerships not just for their business benefits, but also for the opportunities they provided to drive meaningful change within the industry. As the virtual meeting commenced, Marcus greeted the attendees with his usual professionalism. The screen displayed a mix of executives from both companies, their faces framed by the pristine backgrounds of their respective offices. Leading the Zenith Airlines team was Ethan Carter, the same man Marcus had noticed at the bookstore earlier that day. Ethan was a formidable presence, known for his strategic mind and unwavering dedication to Zenith's growth. His reputation preceded him, and Marcus respected him greatly within the industry. However, today, something seemed different about Ethan. There was an edge to his demeanor, a hint of frustration that Marcus couldn't immediately place. "Good afternoon, everyone," Ethan began, his tone more clipped than usual. "Let's get straight to the point. We're here to discuss the potential partnership between Zenith Airlines and Thompson Enterprises. We believe there's significant value in what you bring to the table." Marcus nodded, opening his notes. "Absolutely, Ethan. We've seen the success of your recent initiatives, and we believe our collaboration could lead to substantial improvements in both our operations." As the discussion progressed, Marcus noticed Ethan's growing impatience. The CEO of Zenith, a highly respected figure, was attempting to steer the conversation towards immediate financial gains, seemingly overlooking the broader social impact of their partnership. "We need to prioritize the bottom line," Ethan asserted, interrupting Marcus mid-sentence. "Our shareholders are expecting returns, and while your community initiatives are commendable, we can't afford to divert too many resources away from our core objectives." Marcus felt a pang of frustration, but maintained his composure. "I understand the importance of financial performance, Ethan. However, integrating social responsibility into our business model can enhance our brand reputation and foster long-term loyalty among customers and employees alike." Ethan sighed audibly, his patience clearly wearing thin. "Marcus, we're not here to debate values. We're here to discuss how we can maximize efficiency and profitability. Your proposals, while noble, aren't aligned with our current strategic goals." Marcus's mind raced. He had anticipated some resistance, but the blunt dismissal was unexpected. "I believe that aligning our business objectives with social responsibility can drive sustainable growth. Ignoring these aspects could limit our potential in an increasingly conscientious market." Ethan leaned forward, his expression stern. "Marcus, your perspective is noted, but we need solutions that deliver immediate results. If you're not aligned with that, perhaps we need to reconsider this partnership." The room fell silent, the weight of Ethan's words hanging in the air. Marcus felt a surge of determination. "Ethan, I value our partnership and believe that together we can achieve both financial success and positive societal impact. Let's find a way to integrate these goals without compromising one for the other." Before Ethan could respond, the video connection was abruptly severed. The screen went black, leaving Marcus staring at his own reflection in the monitor. He waited a moment, thinking perhaps it was a technical glitch, but the call did not resume. Frustrated, Marcus checked his internet connection and tried reconnecting, but it was no use. The meeting was over. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Something about Ethan's abrupt termination of the call felt intentional. Was this just a pushback on his ideas, or was there something more underlying this confrontation? Marcus decided to address it directly. He picked up his phone and called Jenna, his trusted assistant. "Jenna, can you connect me with Ethan Carter?" he asked. Jenna's voice was quick to respond, tinged with concern. "Sure, Mr. Thompson. Let me see if he's available." After a few rings, Ethan answered, his voice curt and distant. "Mr. Thompson?" "Hello, Ethan. I wanted to follow up on our meeting earlier." "Is everything all right?" Marcus inquired, striving to keep his tone neutral. Ethan paused for a moment before responding. "Yes, everything's fine, just a busy day. Let's reschedule the meeting for next week." Marcus sensed the underlying tension, but chose not to press further. "Of course, I'll have my team coordinate with yours to find a suitable time." "Sounds good. Thank you," Ethan replied before hanging up. Marcus sighed, feeling the sting of unspoken words. He wondered if Ethan's reaction was influenced by something else, perhaps the encounter at the bookstore, or maybe internal pressures within Zenith Airlines. Regardless, he knew this was more than just a disagreement over business strategies. Determined not to let this setback deter him, Marcus refocused on his work, but the encounter left a lingering unease. The day continued with its usual demands, but Marcus's thoughts were clouded by the confrontation with Ethan and the unresolved tensions it hinted at. Later that evening, Marcus decided to unwind by attending a local community event organized by Dr. Brooks. The event, titled Tech for Good, was aimed at empowering underrepresented groups in the tech sector through workshops, networking sessions, and mentorship opportunities. It was an initiative that perfectly aligned with Marcus's values and the collaborative project he had recently discussed with Dr. Brooks. As he entered the venue, a spacious hall adorned with banners promoting diversity and innovation, Marcus felt a sense of belonging. The room buzzed with energy, filled with aspiring entrepreneurs, industry veterans, and community leaders eager to make a difference. Dr. Brooks greeted him warmly, her presence exuding both confidence and grace. "Marcus, I'm so glad you could make it tonight." "Thank you for inviting me, Angela. It's an honor to be part of this event," Marcus replied, shaking her hand firmly. They made their way through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries and engaging in conversations with attendees. Marcus felt a surge of pride watching the next generation of tech leaders eager to learn and grow. It was moments like these that reinforced his belief in the power of community and collaboration. As the evening progressed, Dr. Brooks took the stage to deliver her keynote speech. Her words were inspiring, highlighting the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the tech industry. She spoke passionately about the challenges faced by underrepresented groups and the need for systemic change to create a more equitable landscape. After her speech, the room was filled with applause, and the attendees gathered around her for discussions and networking. Marcus joined in, exchanging ideas and offering support to those seeking guidance. The event was a success, leaving everyone feeling motivated and empowered. However, amidst the positive atmosphere, Marcus couldn't shake the earlier tension from his meeting with Ethan. As he mingled with the crowd, he noticed a few familiar faces, employees from Zenith Airlines who had come to support the collaboration. One of them, a young woman named Rachel, approached him with a hesitant smile. "Mr. Thompson, it's great to see you here," Rachel said softly. "Dr. Brooks mentioned the meeting earlier today. She thought you might be interested in our upcoming projects." Marcus smiled warmly. "Absolutely, Rachel. I'm always eager to hear about new initiatives. Let's discuss them over coffee sometime this week." As Rachel nodded and moved on, Marcus felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps the tension with Ethan could be resolved through open dialogue and mutual understanding. He was determined to find a way to bridge the gap, ensuring that both their companies could work together harmoniously. But as the night drew to a close, Marcus's thoughts kept drifting back to the unresolved conflict with Zenith Airlines. He wondered if there were deeper issues at play, issues that went beyond business disagreements and hinted at underlying prejudices or power struggles. The idea was unsettling, but Marcus was no stranger to navigating complex challenges. He was prepared to confront whatever obstacles lay ahead, fueled by his commitment to justice and equality. The following morning, Marcus awoke with a renewed sense of determination. The events of the previous day had reaffirmed his commitment to driving positive change, but the lingering tension with Zenith Airlines weighed heavily on his mind. He knew that to achieve his goals, he needed to address the situation head-on. He decided to reach out to Ethan once more, hoping to clear the air and find common ground. After a quick review of his schedule, he called Jenna for assistance. "Jenna, could you please arrange a meeting with Ethan Carter? I'd like to discuss our partnership in more detail." Jenna responded promptly, setting up a time for the following afternoon. Marcus appreciated her efficiency and reliability, traits that were invaluable in his line of work. As the day progressed, Marcus immersed himself in preparing for the meeting. He reviewed the notes from the previous discussion, identified key areas of mutual interest, and strategized on how to present his ideas in a way that aligned with Zenith Airlines' objectives while maintaining his commitment to social responsibility. Finally, The afternoon arrived. Marcus entered a sleek conference room in Zenith Airlines' downtown office, greeted by Ethan and a few other executives. The atmosphere was professional, yet Marcus could sense the underlying tension from his last interaction. "Marcus, thank you for coming," Ethan began, his tone still slightly guarded. "Let's get straight to the point. We need to discuss how your proposals can align with our current strategic goals." Marcus nodded, maintaining his composure. "I understand, Ethan. My goal is to find a balance between enhancing operational efficiency and fostering social responsibility. I believe that by integrating these aspects, we can create a more resilient and respected partnership." Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying Marcus intently. "We've reviewed your proposals, and while we see the potential benefits, we're concerned about the immediate impact on our bottom line. Our shareholders are demanding results, and any significant shift in strategy needs to reflect that priority." Marcus took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. "I completely understand the need for financial performance, Ethan. However, incorporating social responsibility doesn't necessarily mean compromising profitability. In fact, it can lead to long-term gains by building brand loyalty, attracting top talent, and mitigating risks associated with reputational damage." There was a moment of silence as Ethan processed Marcus's words. Marcus continued, "For example, investing in diversity and inclusion initiatives can lead to a more innovative and creative workforce. Happy employees are more productive and less likely to leave, reducing turnover costs." Ethan's expression softened slightly, but the skepticism remained. "Those are valid points, Marcus, but we need to see tangible results. How do you propose we measure the impact of these initiatives on our financial performance?" Marcus had anticipated this question and was prepared with data and case studies. "There are several metrics we can track, such as employee retention rates, customer satisfaction scores, and even sales growth linked to enhanced brand reputation. Additionally, implementing sustainable practices can reduce operational costs in the long run, such as energy savings from eco-friendly technologies." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "I see your approach is comprehensive, but it's going to require a significant initial investment. We're not sure if our current financial standing can support that." Marcus remained calm, recognizing the need to address Ethan's concerns without losing sight of his objectives. "I understand the hesitation. Ethan, perhaps we can start with a pilot program, implementing these initiatives in a controlled environment to assess their impact before committing to a full-scale rollout. This way, we can gather concrete data and demonstrate the benefits without a large upfront investment." Ethan considered the proposal, his demeanor slowly shifting from resistance to contemplation. "A pilot program could be a viable option. We'll need detailed plans and projected outcomes to present to our board." Marcus smiled, sensing the breakthrough. "Absolutely, I'll work with my team to develop a comprehensive plan that outlines the scope, objectives, and metrics for success. I'm confident that this approach will address your concerns while paving the way for meaningful change." Ethan extended his hand, offering a tentative gesture of agreement. "All right, Marcus. Let's move forward with the pilot program. I'll have our team coordinate with yours to get the details ironed out." Marcus shook Ethan's hand firmly, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate your willingness to explore this opportunity. Together, we can create a partnership that benefits both our companies and the communities we serve." As the meeting concluded, Marcus felt a renewed sense of optimism. The initial conflict had been navigated with professionalism and strategic compromise, setting the stage for a collaborative effort that aligned with his values. However, he remained vigilant, aware that this was just the beginning of a larger battle against systemic challenges and potential prejudices that could arise. Leaving Zenith Airlines' office, Marcus reflected on the day's events. While he had successfully steered the conversation towards a positive outcome, he couldn't help but wonder about the underlying tensions that Ethan had exhibited earlier. Was this merely a result of corporate pressures, or was there more to the story? Determined to uncover the truth, Marcus decided to delve deeper into Zenith Airlines' internal dynamics. He knew that understanding the root causes of resistance was crucial for fostering a truly equitable partnership. With the help of Dr. Brooks and his dedicated team, he began to explore the broader landscape of corporate behavior and systemic biases that often hindered progress. That evening, Marcus attended a community panel discussion on corporate responsibility and ethical leadership. The event featured industry leaders, activists, and scholars who shared their insights on navigating the complexities of business ethics in a diverse society. Marcus listened intently, taking notes and engaging in the conversations that followed. During a break, he struck up a conversation with a fellow attendee, a professor specializing in organizational behavior. "It's clear that systemic biases are deeply ingrained in many corporate cultures," the professor remarked. "Even well-intentioned leaders like yourself often face significant pushback when trying to implement meaningful change." Marcus nodded, appreciating the professor's perspective. "Absolutely. It's a constant struggle to balance business objectives with ethical considerations. Sometimes, the resistance comes not just from top executives, but from the very structure of the organization." The professor leaned in, his expression thoughtful. "Have you considered leveraging your position to influence change beyond your immediate partnership with Zenith? Sometimes, creating coalitions with other like-minded leaders can amplify your efforts and create a more substantial impact." Marcus pondered the idea, recognizing the potential benefits of such collaborations. "That's a great suggestion. Building a network of leaders committed to ethical practices could provide the support and resources needed to drive systemic change." As the night progressed, Marcus felt a growing sense of determination. The challenges he faced were not unique, and by connecting with others who shared his vision, he could strengthen his efforts and overcome the obstacles ahead. Little did he know, his pursuit of truth and justice was about to collide with forces that would test his resilience and commitment to his principles in unprecedented ways. The following week, Marcus received an unexpected email that caught him off guard. The subject line was simply, "Confidential, urgent matter." Intrigued and slightly apprehensive, he opened the message. "Dear Mr. Thompson, I hope this message finds you well. My name is Daniel Reed, and I was a senior manager at Zenith Airlines for over a decade. I am reaching out to you because I believe you have the influence and integrity to address some deeply troubling issues within our company. Due to the sensitive nature of this information, I request a private meeting at your earliest convenience. Please contact me at your personal email, daniel.reed@privateexample.com. Sincerely, Daniel Reed." Marcus stared at the screen, a mix of surprise and curiosity swirling within him. A former senior manager at Zenith Airlines contacting him directly was unusual, especially given the absence of any prior communication or relationship. He felt a pang of caution, but also recognized the potential significance of this message. He decided to approach the situation with the same professionalism and discretion that defined his leadership style. Without delay, he forwarded the email to Jenna, instructing her to arrange a secure and confidential meeting. Later that afternoon, Marcus met with Jenna in his office, a spacious yet unpretentious room adorned with family photos and mementos from his travels. He recounted the email, seeking her advice on the best course of action. "Jenna, this is unexpected," Marcus said thoughtfully. "A former Zenith manager reaching out like this could mean something serious. Do you think we should proceed with the meeting?" Jenna considered the options carefully. If Daniel Reed is indeed a former senior manager, he might have valuable insights or information that could be crucial for our partnership with Zenith. However, we need to ensure that this meeting is handled with utmost confidentiality and security. Marcus nodded in agreement. "I trust your judgment. Let's set up a meeting at a neutral location where we can discuss this without any potential leaks or interruptions." The following day, Marcus and Jenna traveled to a discreet cafe known for its privacy and minimal foot traffic. They arrived ahead of schedule, ensuring that Daniel Reed would have ample time to arrive without drawing attention. As the minutes ticked by, Marcus's anticipation grew. He wondered what prompted Daniel to reach out and what kind of information he might possess. His mind raced through possibilities. Was this related to internal practices at Zenith Airlines, or perhaps something more personal? Finally, Daniel Reed entered the cafe, his appearance strikingly different from his memory of Zenith's polished executives. He was unshaven, his once meticulously tailored suit now slightly rumpled, and his expression weary yet determined. Marcus rose to greet him, extending a hand in welcome. "Mr. Reed, thank you for meeting with me," Marcus began, his voice steady and inviting. Daniel shook his hand firmly, his grip conveying both strength and urgency. "Thank you for taking the time, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate it." They sat down at a secluded table in the corner, away from the bustling main area. Marcus gestured for Daniel to speak first, giving him the floor. "Mr. Thompson, I know how valuable your time is, so I'll get straight to the point," Daniel began, his voice earnest. "During my tenure at Zenith Airlines, I became aware of several practices that I believe are not only unethical, but also discriminatory. These practices go beyond mere business strategy. They're rooted in systemic biases that target specific groups of passengers based on their race and socioeconomic status." Marcus listened intently, his concern deepening. "Can you provide specific examples or evidence of these practices?" Daniel nodded, pulling out a folder from his briefcase. "I've compiled documents, internal memos, and testimonies from other former employees who have witnessed or been part of these operations. Zenith Airlines has been systematically profiling passengers, identifying those who fit certain profiles, and subjecting them to unnecessary scrutiny or even removal from flights." Marcus felt a surge of anger and frustration, but maintained his composure. "This is deeply troubling, Mr. Reed. How long has this been going on?" "For years," Daniel replied, his eyes meeting Marcus's with a mix of determination and regret. "It started as a misguided attempt to enhance security and customer service, but it has evolved into something much more insidious. Employees are trained to recognize and target individuals based on their appearance, behavior, and other superficial characteristics. It's a form of institutionalized racism that Zenith Airlines has allowed to fester." Marcus's mind raced, connecting the dots between this revelation and his earlier interactions with Ethan. "Why are you telling me this now? Is there something specific that prompted you to reach out?" Daniel hesitated for a moment before responding. "I couldn't stay silent any longer. I've seen the harm these practices have caused, and I believe that exposing them is the only way to stop the ongoing discrimination. Your commitment to social responsibility makes you the ideal partner to help bring this issue to light." Marcus leaned forward, his resolve strengthening. "What do you need from me, Mr. Reed?" "I need your support to investigate these claims further and to hold Zenith Airlines accountable for their actions," Daniel said earnestly. "Together, we can gather the necessary evidence and present a compelling case that forces the company to change its policies and practices." Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the responsibility before him. "This is a significant undertaking, Daniel. Are you prepared for the repercussions that might follow? Zenith Airlines is a powerful corporation with vast resources and influence." Daniel met Marcus's gaze unwaveringly. I've seen what happens to those who try to speak out against these practices: public ridicule, professional blacklisting, even legal threats. But I can't live with the guilt of staying silent. If not me, then who?" Marcus reached across the table, placing a reassuring hand on Daniel's shoulder. "You're not alone in this, Daniel. We'll approach this strategically, ensuring that we protect your identity and gather irrefutable evidence together. We can make a difference." Daniel's expression softened, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Your support means more than you know." As their meeting concluded, Marcus felt a profound sense of duty. The revelation of Zenith Airlines' discriminatory practices was a challenge he couldn't ignore. It was an opportunity to leverage his influence and resources to effect meaningful change, aligning perfectly with his mission to drive social responsibility within the corporate world. However, he was acutely aware that this path would be fraught with obstacles. Systemic biases, corporate resistance, and potential personal attacks were just some of the hurdles he would need to navigate. Yet, Marcus was no stranger to adversity. His journey thus far had been a testament to his resilience and unwavering commitment to justice. Leaving the cafe, Marcus reflected on the day's developments: the collaboration with Dr. Brooks, the tension with Ethan, and now Daniel's revelations. All these elements were converging, setting the stage for a confrontation that would test his principles and leadership. He knew that the coming days would demand not just strategic thinking, but also emotional fortitude. Determined to move forward, Marcus began outlining a plan to address the situation. He scheduled meetings with his legal team, reached out to trusted allies within the tech and civil rights communities, and began compiling a comprehensive strategy to expose Zenith Airlines practices. Each step was meticulously planned, ensuring that every move was calculated and purposeful. Meanwhile, the broader social climate in Chicago mirrored the growing tensions within the corporate world. Protests advocating for racial equality and corporate accountability were becoming more frequent, fueled by incidents of discrimination and systemic injustice. Marcus's actions were not occurring in a vacuum. They were part of a larger movement striving for change and equity. One evening, as Marcus reviewed the documents Daniel had provided, his phone buzzed with a new notification. It was a message from Dr. Brooks. "Important meeting at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Need to discuss a new development. Please be there." Marcus frowned, feeling the weight of yet another unexpected turn. "What's going on?" he asked, looking up from his work. Jenna, sensing his concern, replied, "I don't have any details, but I'll make sure you're informed as soon as possible." Marcus sighed, knowing that this was just the beginning. The convergence of these events was signaling a significant shift, one that would require all his strength and wisdom to navigate successfully. As he prepared for bed, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on the journey ahead. The path to justice was rarely straightforward, and the challenges were only going to grow more complex, but his humility and commitment to making a difference would guide him through the turmoil. He lay down, his mind buzzing with thoughts of strategy, alliances, and the moral imperatives that drove him. The fight for truth and accountability was no longer a distant goal. It was now an immediate reality, demanding his unwavering dedication. Little did Marcus know, the meeting with Dr. Brooks would uncover a pivotal piece of the puzzle, propelling him deeper into the heart of the conflict with Zenith Airlines. The stakes were rising, and the battle lines were being drawn, setting the stage for a showdown that would test the very foundations of corporate ethics and personal integrity. Marcus Thompson left Zenith Airlines' office feeling a mix of determination and unease. The meeting with Ethan Carter had yielded a tentative agreement to launch a pilot program integrating social responsibility with operational efficiency. While this was a positive step, Marcus couldn't shake the lingering tension that suggested deeper issues within Zenith Airlines. As he walked down the bustling streets of Chicago, Marcus's phone buzzed with a new notification. It was a message from Dr. Brooks. "Important meeting at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Need to discuss a new development. Please be there." He glanced at his schedule and saw that his team meeting was rescheduled to accommodate this urgent discussion. Marcus felt a surge of anticipation. Whatever Dr. Brooks had to share, it was clearly significant. That evening, Marcus reviewed the documents Daniel Reed had provided. The internal memos and emails were damning evidence of Zenith Airlines' systemic discrimination. Each document painted a clearer picture of an organization deeply entrenched in unethical practices. He knew that exposing Zenith would not only require meticulous planning, but also unwavering resolve. As he sifted through the evidence, his phone rang. It was Jenna, his trusted assistant. "Mr. Thompson, there's someone here to see you," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "Is it urgent?" Marcus asked, already anticipating the worst. "Yes, and it's not expected. He says it's important." Marcus felt a knot form in his stomach. He trusted Jenna implicitly, so this couldn't be good. He quickly forwarded the conversation details to his legal team, ensuring they were aware of the potential developments. He made his way to the designated meeting spot, a quiet, upscale bar known for its discretion. As he entered, he spotted a man in a dark suit seated at a secluded table. The man looked up as Marcus approached, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming," the man greeted, standing to shake his hand. "I'm Officer Daniels with the Chicago Police Department." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. "Officer Daniels, how can I help you?" Daniels gestured for him to sit. "I'm here regarding a matter that requires your immediate attention. It's about your recent activities involving Zenith Airlines." Marcus remained calm, masking his anxiety. "I'm not sure what you mean. I'm merely pursuing a business partnership aimed at improving both our companies." Daniels leaned forward, his demeanor stern. "Mr. Thompson, we've received reports suggesting that your efforts to expose Zenith Airlines may involve unauthorized access to their internal systems. Can you explain your actions?" Marcus felt his heart race, but kept his composure. "Officer, I assure you that my actions have been entirely above board. I've been collaborating with a former Zenith manager, Daniel Reed, who provided me with publicly accessible documents and testimonies. There's no illegal activity involved." Daniel's eyes narrowed. "We have evidence suggesting otherwise. Unauthorized access to proprietary information is a serious offense." Before Marcus could respond, the door to the bar swung open, and a group of uniformed officers entered, surrounding their table. The atmosphere thickened with tension as Daniels continued, "Mr. Thompson, you're under arrest for unauthorized access to Zenith Airlines' internal systems. You have the right to remain silent." Marcus's mind raced. He knew that Zenith Airlines had the resources to manipulate situations to their advantage, and this felt like an orchestrated attempt to silence him. He glanced around the bar, noticing sympathetic glances from other patrons who sensed the gravity of the situation. "Officer Daniels, this is a misunderstanding," Marcus insisted, trying to keep his voice steady. "I have no intention of breaking any laws. My goal is to bring to light the unethical practices of Zenith Airlines, not to engage in criminal activities." Daniels remained unmoved. "We have enough evidence to proceed with charges, Mr. Thompson. You'll need to come with us." As the officers moved to handcuff him, Marcus felt a surge of anger and frustration. He knew he was innocent, but the power dynamics were stacked against him. Zenith Airlines had the influence to make his life a living nightmare. Back at his office, Marcus sat in his office chair, the reality of his situation sinking in. His phone rang again. It was Jenna. "Mr. Thompson, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" Marcus took a deep breath, trying to remain composed. "I'm fine, Jenna, but we need to act quickly. This arrest feels like a direct attack from Zenith Airlines." Jenna responded with urgency. "I've already contacted your lawyer and informed the team they're working on getting you released on bail. In the meantime, you need to document everything and refrain from making any public statements until we know more." As he awaited the legal proceedings, Marcus's thoughts were a whirlwind of strategies and plans. He couldn't let Zenith Airlines win this battle. His internal strength began to solidify. He realized that this was the moment where his resolve would be tested. The next morning, Marcus found himself in the stark, intimidating environment of the Chicago Police Department. The sterile white walls and the cold, hard floors contrasted sharply with his usually warm and inviting office. He was escorted to a holding cell, where Officer Daniels sat across from him, his expression still cold and unyielding. "Mr. Thompson, you have the right to remain silent." Daniels recited the Miranda rights with mechanical precision. Marcus nodded, knowing better than to engage defensively. "I intend to fight these charges, officer. This is a setup by Zenith Airlines to discredit me and halt my efforts to expose their corruption." Daniels sighed, a hint of frustration in his demeanor. "We'll see what the court decides. For now, you need to remain here until your hearing." Left alone in the dimly lit cell, Marcus's mind raced. He reached for his phone, but it was confiscated along with his belongings. Panic began to set in, but he quickly pushed it aside, drawing on his internal strength. He had faced challenges before and had always emerged stronger. This time would be no different. Hours later, Marcus was brought before a judge in a small courtroom. The courtroom was packed with media representatives and a few of his close allies, including Jenna and Dr. Brooks. Ethan Carter sat in the audience, his expression unreadable, while several Zenith Airlines executives watched with thinly veiled disdain. Judge Harris looked down at Marcus, her expression neutral. "Mr. Thompson, you are charged with unauthorized access to Zenith Airlines' internal systems. How do you plead?" Marcus stood, addressing the court with calm authority. "Not guilty, Your Honor. I have no intention of breaking any laws. My actions were motivated solely by a desire to expose unethical and discriminatory practices within Zenith Airlines." Judge Harris nodded, signaling the beginning of the proceedings. As the trial unfolded, it became evident that Zenith Airlines had spared no effort to build a case against Marcus. Their lawyers presented what appeared to be incriminating evidence, logs of system access and alleged communications between Marcus and Daniel Reed. However, Marcus's legal team countered with solid alibis and demonstrated that the documents provided by Daniel were publicly accessible and intended for ethical advocacy. Throughout the trial, subtle prejudices surfaced. The defense attorneys often referred to Marcus in diminishing terms, questioning his motives and suggesting that his philanthropic efforts were merely a guise for personal gain. Microaggressions and biased questioning hinted at deeper systemic biases within the legal system. Despite the mounting pressure, Marcus remained composed. He knew that his calm demeanor was crucial in maintaining the court's perception of his integrity. Internally, however, he struggled with the weight of the situation. The injustice he faced fueled his determination, but he also grappled with the emotional toll of being targeted for his ethical stance. Supporting characters played pivotal roles in bolstering his resolve. Jenna coordinated with the legal team, ensuring that every piece of evidence was meticulously organized. Dr. Brooks reached out to community leaders and civil rights organizations, garnering public support and rallying allies to Marcus's cause. Mitchell, a hesitant but ultimately steadfast member of the legal team, provided invaluable assistance, overcoming his initial reservations to stand firmly by Marcus. As the trial progressed, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Zenith Airlines' attempts to discredit Marcus were relentless, but so were his efforts to expose the truth. The courtroom became a battleground where issues of corporate corruption, systemic bias, and personal integrity collided. Then, just when it seemed like the defense had the upper hand, a turning point emerged. A whistleblower from Zenith Airlines stepped forward, corroborating Marcus's claims about the company's discriminatory practices. This individual provided new, compelling evidence that exposed the depth of Zenith's systemic corruption. As the courtroom buzzed with anticipation, Marcus felt a surge of hope. This was the moment he had been striving for. The opportunity to finally bring Zenith Airlines' unethical practices to light. The judge called for a recess, allowing time for the new evidence to be reviewed. During the break, Marcus met with his legal team and allies. "This is our chance," he said, his voice steady. "We need to make sure that the whistleblower's testimony is heard and that we present this new evidence effectively." Jenna nodded, her determination unwavering. "We'll coordinate with the media to ensure this reaches the public eye. The more people know about what's happening, the harder it will be for Zenith to get away with this." Dr. Brooks added, "Community support is crucial. We need to mobilize our networks and ensure that this doesn't go unnoticed." As the courtroom reconvened, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation. The whistleblower took the stand, providing detailed accounts of Zenith Airlines' discriminatory policies and the lengths the company went to silence dissent. Their testimony was a game-changer, shifting the momentum in Marcus's favor. However, just as the prosecution was poised to deliver the final blow, the unexpected happened. Officer Daniels entered the courtroom, interrupting the proceedings. His presence sent a ripple of shock through the room. "Your Honor, I have new information regarding Mr. Thompson," Daniels announced, his voice firm. "Upon further investigation, we've uncovered evidence that suggests Mr. Thompson may have been involved in unauthorized activities beyond what was previously disclosed." Marcus felt his heart sink, but he refused to let panic take over. "Your Honor, I respectfully object. This is another attempt by Zenith Airlines to discredit me and derail this case." Judge Harris regarded Daniels with a measured gaze. "Is this information relevant to the charges at hand?" Daniels nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. The evidence suggests a pattern of behavior that aligns with the charges against Mr. Thompson." Marcus knew that this was yet another attempt to silence him, to overshadow the truth he was fighting to reveal. He exchanged a determined look with his legal team, ready to face whatever came next. As the courtroom held its breath, Marcus felt the full weight of the battle before him. The stakes had never been higher, and the conflict was reaching a critical juncture. He was on the precipice of exposing Zenith Airlines' corruption, but the corporation was pulling out all the stops to protect its interests. As the courtroom buzzed with the unexpected interruption, Marcus Thompson felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with a deep sense of injustice. Officer Daniels' sudden revelation threatened to undermine everything he and his team had worked tirelessly to achieve. The room seemed to close in around him, the weight of Zenith Airlines' power pressing down from every corner. Judge Harris raised her hand, signaling for silence. "Officer Daniels, please present your evidence." Daniels stepped forward, his expression stern. "Your Honor, we have obtained additional data that indicates Mr. Thompson may have accessed Zenith Airlines' internal systems without authorization. This evidence suggests a pattern of behavior that aligns with the charges already brought against him." Marcus took a deep breath, his mind racing to process the implications. He glanced over at his lawyer, Mitchell, who gave him a subtle nod of encouragement. Mitchell was a relatively new addition to the legal team, having joined after Marcus's arrest. Initially hesitant, Mitchell had proven himself to be a steadfast and strategic ally, providing critical insights that had helped navigate the complex legal landscape. "Mr. Thompson," Mitchell began, rising to address the court. "These allegations are yet another attempt by Zenith Airlines to discredit my client and derail his efforts to expose their systemic corruption. We have already provided substantial evidence demonstrating Zenith's unethical practices, supported by a credible whistleblower and a plethora of internal documents. Introducing these new, unrelated accusations is a blatant distraction." Judge Harris listened intently, her gaze shifting between Daniels and Marcus. "Mr. Thompson, do you have any response to these new allegations?" Marcus stood, his posture calm, yet resolute. "Your Honor, these additional claims are completely unfounded and appear to be a calculated effort by Zenith Airlines to tarnish my reputation and silence my voice. My only actions have been in pursuit of justice and accountability within a corporation that has long abused its power. I have no history of unauthorized access or malicious intent." Daniels interjected. "We have logs and records that indicate multiple attempts by Mr. Thompson to access restricted areas of our system without proper authorization. These actions cannot be ignored." Mitchell swiftly countered. "These so-called logs are merely traces of legitimate access required for Marcus to collaborate with Dr. Brooks and gather publicly available information. There has been no breach of security protocols. Moreover, we have alibis and witnesses who can attest to Marcus's presence and activities during the times in question." The courtroom was tense, the air thick with anticipation. The media representatives scribbled furiously in their notepads, capturing every word and gesture. Onlookers, including members of Marcus's team and supporters from the community, watched with bated breath. As the prosecutor prepared to present Zenith Airlines' new evidence, Marcus felt a wave of determination wash over him. He had come too far to let this setback derail his mission. His internal struggle between anger and composure was evident, but he knew that losing his cool would only play into Zenith's hands. Instead, he drew strength from his unwavering commitment to justice and the support of his allies. "Your Honor, if I may," Mitchell continued, "we are prepared to demonstrate that these allegations are not only baseless, but also fabricated to undermine Mr. Thompson's credibility. We have witnesses who can testify to his ethical conduct and provide context to his actions that Zenith Airlines is conveniently ignoring." Judge Harris nodded thoughtfully. "Very well, Mr. Thompson, you may call your next witness." Marcus turned to his team, who offered silent support. "Mitchell, please proceed." Mitchell called forth Dr. Angela Brooks, the community leader who had been instrumental in rallying support for Marcus's cause. As Dr. Brooks took the stand, the courtroom grew silent, all eyes fixed on her. "Dr. Brooks, can you please state your relationship with Mr. Thompson for the record?" Mitchell asked. "Certainly," she began, her voice steady. "I am Dr. Angela Brooks, a community organizer and collaborator with Mr. Thompson on various social responsibility initiatives. We've worked closely together on projects aimed at empowering underrepresented groups in the tech industry." Mitchell nodded. "Dr. Brooks, can you attest to Mr. Thompson's character and intentions regarding his work with Zenith Airlines?" Dr. Brooks looked directly at Marcus, her eyes filled with sincerity. "Absolutely, Marcus has always been committed to ethical practices and social justice. His efforts to expose Zenith Airlines' discriminatory practices are a testament to his dedication to creating a more equitable and responsible corporate environment." Mitchell continued, "Dr. Brooks, have you witnessed any behavior from Mr. Thompson that would suggest he is involved in unauthorized or unethical activities?" Dr. Brooks shook her head firmly. "No, Mitchell. In fact, Marcus has always conducted himself with the utmost integrity. His only actions have been in pursuit of justice and accountability within Zenith Airlines." The courtroom was abuzz with murmurs as the defense's witness delivered a powerful testimony, further strengthening Marcus's case. However, just as the prosecution was about to rebut, the judge called for order. "Officer Daniels, is there any additional evidence you'd like to present?" Judge Harris inquired. Daniels hesitated, glancing at his notes. "Yes, Your Honor. We've also obtained communication records between Mr. Thompson and an external party that suggest coordination with Zenith Airlines employees to access restricted information. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. This was a new layer of complexity, one that Zenith had seemingly fabricated to deepen the case against him. He knew that if Zenith could manipulate evidence this way, they posed a significant threat to his mission. "Your Honor, I must object," Mitchell interjected, his voice firm. "These communications are being taken out of context and do not prove any wrongdoing on Mr. Thompson's part. We can provide evidence that these interactions were part of our legitimate efforts to gather publicly available information and collaborate with ethical stakeholders." Judge Harris considered the objection, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Thompson, is there any context you can provide for these communications?" Marcus took a deep breath, ready to counter the latest accusation. "Yes, Your Honor. The communications in question were part of my collaboration with Dr. Brooks and other community leaders to compile evidence of Zenith Airlines' unethical practices. There was no intention to access restricted systems or engage in any unauthorized activities." Daniels was relentless, pressing further. "Mr. Thompson, can you explain why these communications were flagged as suspicious and led to unauthorized access charges?" Before Marcus could respond, an unexpected development occurred. A fellow defendant, Daniel Reed, the former senior manager at Zenith Airlines, stood up from the gallery and made his way to the stand. Gasps filled the room as he approached the witness stand, his presence a surprising twist in the proceedings. "Your Honor, I have something to add to this case," Reed declared, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I was a senior manager at Zenith Airlines, and I can confirm that the allegations against Mr. Thompson are part of a larger scheme orchestrated by the company's higher-ups to silence whistleblowers and cover up systemic discrimination." The courtroom erupted into chaos. Reporters snapped photos, and whispers spread like wildfire. Judge Harris raised her hand, calling for calm. "Mr. Reed, please take the stand and provide your testimony." As Reed began to speak, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted dramatically. "During my tenure at Zenith Airlines, I witnessed firsthand the implementation of discriminatory practices aimed at targeting specific groups of passengers. These policies were enforced by higher management, who pressured employees to report and remove passengers based on arbitrary criteria." He continued, "Mr. Thompson was not involved in any unauthorized access to our systems. In fact, he was one of the few employees advocating for transparency and ethical practices within the company. The charges against him are fabricated to distract from our internal issues and to discredit those who seek to expose the truth." Marcus felt a surge of vindication as Reed's testimony aligned perfectly with his own experiences and the evidence he had presented. Mitchell seized the moment. "Mr. Reed, can you provide any specific instances or documentation that support your claims?" Reed nodded, producing a set of documents from his briefcase. "Yes, here are internal memos and emails that detail the directives given to employees to monitor and report passengers based on discriminatory criteria. These documents also show communication between senior management and lower-level staff to suppress any attempts to challenge these practices." The courtroom was abuzz with activity as Reed presented the evidence. Mitchell methodically went through the documents, highlighting key points that underscored Zenith Airlines' systemic corruption. The judge reviewed the materials, her expression shifting from skepticism to concern. Judge Harris addressed Zenith Airlines' legal team. "Mr. Carter, how do you respond to this new evidence presented by Mr. Reed?" Ethan Carter stepped forward, his face tight with frustration. "Your Honor, these documents are being taken out of context. They do not implicate Mr. Thompson in any wrongdoing. Instead, they highlight internal issues that are unrelated to the charges brought against him." Mitchell countered, "Your Honor, these documents reveal a pattern of discriminatory practices within Zenith Airlines that Mr. Thompson has been actively working to expose. The attempt to associate him with unauthorized access is a clear effort to divert attention from the company's unethical behavior." The judge paused, taking in the gravity of the situation. "Given the new evidence and testimony provided by Mr. Reed, I am compelled to reevaluate the charges against Mr. Thompson. The court will adjourn to review the materials presented and reconvene with a decision as soon as possible." As the courtroom emptied, Marcus felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The tides were clearly turning in his favor, but Zenith Airlines had shown their willingness to go to great lengths to protect their interests. The stakes were higher than ever, and the final showdown was looming on the horizon. Outside the courtroom, Jenna and Dr. Brooks approached Marcus, their faces reflecting a blend of hope and concern. "You did it, Marcus," Jenna said softly. "This is a major breakthrough." Dr. Brooks added, "Yes, but we need to remain vigilant. Zenith Airlines won't back down easily, and there might be more obstacles ahead." Marcus nodded, his resolve hardening. "Thank you both. This is just the beginning. We have a long road ahead, but with this evidence, we're one step closer to holding Zenith accountable." As they walked through the courthouse steps, a sense of unity and purpose enveloped them. The battle was intensifying, and Marcus knew that the pivotal moment was fast approaching. Zenith Airlines had exposed their darkest strategies, but the fight for truth and justice was far from over.